They laughed every time he opened his mouth. They mocked his words, his rhythm, his voice. To them it sounded wrong. To him, it was the sound of home. They told him he'd never make it in this country, that his accent would always keep doors closed. But years later, those same people watched him walk onto the stage at the United Nations, where the entire world came to listen. Because the voice they once mocked had become the one thing they could never silence. This is the story of Kofi Mensah, a boy who once struggled to speak without shame, and a man who would one day teach the world how to listen. But before he found his voice, he had to survive the silence that tried to erase it. When Kweku first walked into that middle school in suburban Virginia, he thought he'd done everything right. Clean shirt, pressed pants, backpack zipped tight. His mother had hugged him that morning, whispering, "Speak clearly, son. Speak proudly. You carry our home in your voice." But pride is heavy when you carry it alone. The first day, a teacher asked him to introduce himself. He stood tall, or tried to. "My name is Kweku," he said, careful, polite, his accent lilting with the rhythm of another world. And then, the room laughed. It wasn't loud. Not yet. Just a few snickers. But for a 12-year-old, a whisper of laughter can echo louder than thunder. The teacher smiled awkwardly, pretending not to notice. "Welcome, Kweku," she said, pronouncing it wrong. He corrected her gently. "It's Kweku." She nodded and kept saying it wrong anyway. That was the first lesson. Not in English, but in invisibility. Middle school became survival. Every word he spoke felt like stepping on broken glass. "Say that again," they teased, mocking his vowels, twisting his name into something unrecognizable. He learned to speak less, then softer, then almost not at all. At lunch he sat alone. Not because he wanted to, but because he refused to give them more ammunition. Teachers said he was quiet. They didn't see the storm he kept behind silence. Every night, his mother would ask, "Did you make friends today?" And every night he'd lie, "Yes, Mama." Because no son wants to break his mother's hope. But what they didn't know was that Kweku had a secret, a habit that kept him sane. He recorded his own voice. Old cassette player, broken microphone. He'd sit by the window and talk about his day, the pain, the confusion, the hope. And he'd listen back, trying to change the sound of himself, trying to sound like them. Until one night his father walked in. "Why do you hide your tongue, son?" he asked softly. Kweku froze. "I just want them to understand me," he whispered. His father smiled sadly. "If they can't understand your voice, that's not your burden to fix." It was a small sentence, but it stayed, like a seed waiting for light. By high school, Kweku had perfected the art of invisibility. No accent slips, no laughter anymore. He'd learned to mimic, to blend in, and for a while that worked. But blending in isn't the same as belonging. One afternoon, his English teacher, Miss Parker, assigned a speech project. "Who inspires you most?" Kweku almost backed out, but something in him whispered, "Speak." So he wrote about his father, the man who worked 2 jobs, who never missed a family dinner, and who told him every night, "Your voice is not a mistake." The day of the presentation, his hands shook. He stood before the class, and for the first time in years he didn't fake his voice. He spoke like home. His classmates were silent. Not mocking, not laughing, just listening. And when he finished, Miss Parker stood and clapped first. That was the day something shifted. He realized his accent wasn't weakness. It was proof. Proof that he had lived in 2 worlds and could navigate both. That moment didn't fix everything, but it cracked open the shell. Years later, Kweku earned a scholarship to Georgetown University. Political science major. Debate minor. At orientation, a student asked, "Where are you from?" "Virginia," he said. "No, like, where are you really from?" That word, really, it carried the weight of every old insult disguised as curiosity. He smiled politely. "Earth." The girl blinked, unsure whether to laugh. And that's when Kweku realized he didn't owe anyone his background to validate his presence. He joined the campus debate team. First match, disaster. His teammates whispered, "He's good, but that accent, man, it's distracting." But Kweku didn't quit. He trained every night. Not to erase his sound, but to sharpen his message. He studied tone, cadence, rhythm. Listened to world leaders, orators, poets. And soon his accent became his rhythm. His rhythm became his signature. By senior year, he was captain of the debate team. His speeches weren't just arguments, they were symphonies, blending heritage and intellect until the audience stopped hearing foreign and started hearing formidable. When he won the National Collegiate Debate Championship, the same students who once dismissed him stood for him. Because when truth speaks with conviction, it doesn't matter what language it wears. After graduation, he worked for a global nonprofit, advocating for educational access in developing nations. But behind closed doors, the microaggressions returned. Boardrooms full of smiles that didn't mean respect. Co-workers who repeated his ideas louder and got the credit. He'd sit in those meetings quietly, remembering every schoolroom laughter, every smirk disguised as curiosity. But Kweku wasn't 12 anymore. He started recording again. Not on a cassette this time, but on his phone. Every night, he'd document thoughts, frustrations, lessons learned. And somewhere between those recordings, his purpose evolved. He wasn't just surviving bias anymore. He was studying it, understanding it, turning it into strategy. Within 3 years, his proposals for multilingual outreach programs were being adopted internationally. Within 5, he was advising entire ministries on cross-cultural communication. And when an ambassador from Ghana heard one of his lectures in Geneva, she smiled and said, "You speak like my son." He smiled back. Maybe that's the point. It was a rainy Thursday when the email arrived. Subject line, United Nations Youth Forum, keynote speaker invitation. He read it twice, then a third time. They wanted him to speak. Not about his company, not about his achievements, but about his journey. And for a long minute he just sat there, staring at the screen, remembering every laugh, every whisper, every rejection. The same voice that once drew ridicule was now being requested on the world's most respected stage. He called his mother first. "Mama, they want me to speak at the United Nations." She gasped, her voice trembling. "You see? I told you. You carry our home in your voice." That night, Kweku sat at his desk, drafting his speech by hand. Not on a laptop, on paper. Because some words need to be written like prayers. The UN hall was massive. Flags from every nation. Glass panels gleaming under golden light. Kweku walked to the podium, heart steady. The audience quieted. He adjusted the mic, took a breath, and began. "When I was 12, I learned that silence can be a shield, and that shame can sound like laughter." The room went still. "I spent years trying to bury the sound of my own tongue because someone once told me it didn't belong in their world. But I stand here today to tell you, your accent is not a flaw. It's evidence of history. It's proof that your ancestors' stories made it across oceans." The crowd leaned in. Don't trade authenticity for acceptance. Because one day the same voice they mocked will be the one they invite to teach them how to listen. When he finished, there was silence, then thunderous applause. Journalists wrote headlines about his speech. Clips went viral. #SpeakAsYouAre trended globally. And somewhere in Virginia, a classroom teacher showed that video to her students. At the back of the room, a boy with an accent sat a little taller. Weeks later, Kweku returned home. Same quiet neighborhood. Same small kitchen where his mother made tea. He placed his UN badge on the table. She smiled. "You kept your promise." He looked out the window. Rain tapping softly against the glass. Because success hadn't erased the past, it had redeemed it. He still remembered the laughter. The teacher mispronouncing his name. The lunches alone. But now those memories carried no pain. Only purpose. He started a foundation for children of immigrants, teaching them communication, confidence, and cultural pride. He told them, "Your accent is an autobiography. Never edit it for an audience that doesn't deserve your story." And every year he'd play the recording from that UN speech. The same voice he once tried to hide, now echoing across nations. He learned that home isn't a place you return to. It's a sound you never lose. They laughed at the way he spoke. But years later the world leaned in to listen. Because sometimes, the very thing they mocked becomes the message that moves mountains. And as the camera fades on Kweku, standing under the UN flag, the narrator's voice returns, steady, reverent. He didn't change his voice to fit the world. He changed the world to fit his voice. Because the accent they mocked was the echo of his ancestors, and the sound of tomorrow learning how to speak with respect.